All right, let's call the meeting to order, if we could. And the first order of business is the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
My fellow selectmen, if you had a chance to look at the minutes and feel good about what you read, and does it reflect what we said the last time?
I do have no problem with it. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's see. Minutes of my life. Okay. We are changing the order of our agenda just a bit. We're going to bring up Majka Burhat.
Micah.
I'm sorry.
That's it.
Sorry,
I'm Bob.
Yeah, I'll bet it does.
Great. I haven't been in a select board meeting in a while, so do I speak from here, stand up?
Well, you're here to talk about renaming or referring to us as a select board rather than selectmen and all that. So go ahead, why don't you speak your piece, please.
Great. Yeah. So I'm Mike Burhart, and I'm a Jackson resident and also a parent. These are my kids who are joining me today. And I would like for the Jackson Select Board to be called a Select Board as opposed to a group of selectmen. And I think that we have a real opportunity to better reflect a inclusive leadership style and set the standard for people wanting to get involved in governance to have a pathway to see themselves represented. And I think that that's in line with Jackson's values and our community.
Any discussion here from our board? I have none.
Is there anything legally or statewide that makes it rule that we have to be called the selectmen or the board of selectmen or anything like that that anyone knows about?
That I know.
And is it more of a reference that you're concerned with versus just kind of replacing selectmen with
To me,
any
it's
time with that?
Anytime or in the minutes, in the e-news, just to universally have it. And lots of other select boards in the state have done the same thing, and they've just universally adopted that. So whenever this body is referred to, that it's used in that, sorry, I got distracted by saying that, it's used in that naming convention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have to think about this a little bit because, forever and ever and ever, we refer to ourselves as selectmen. We're referred to as selectmen in probably some other words from time to time. Look at the stone back there. I see Peter Kelly, building named after him, longtime selectman, business-like person. Different times, I suppose. Personally, I don't really mind, or I shouldn't say care, but if I'm called a select board member or a selectman, I don't know if we have to make it a standard, whatever you call us. I think it's up to the people to decide how they want to deal with us and how they want to refer to us. And that's my opinion. I'm just, I wanted to say something about this. And I don't know how the other two might feel.
I would ask to consider that that might not feel as important to you as someone who is a man and who is identified clearly in that. And I think that while we can all make our own decisions, if my kids, for example, grow up where every time they see information that says the board of, that the selectmen are making this decision, it doesn't necessarily present a path. And we can make the assumption that, it doesn't matter, anyone can be a part of it, we just call them the selectmen, or we say from the start that it's a select board and that everybody's welcome in that space, and actually represent what I think the feeling is and what you just articulated, that it is for anybody to be there, to be a part of it, and be part of our lives.
Well, we have one female on board. And do you have any feelings one way or another? Or do you give this
I
much
don't
thought?
really have feelings one way or the other, but I guess I appreciate Micah's input and being a younger generation than I am, easily said, because I'm in my 60s, so I don't really have a consideration one way or the other. I think that if we can refer to ourselves as the select board or the board of selectmen versus the board of selectmen, that's fine. I don't know what the repercussions would be if someone calls us the board of selectmen, and then do we personally or publicly scold them or whatever. So I guess we can become more aware of being called the select board. I don't correct anyone when they call me a selectman, or many people do ask me if they want me to be called a select woman, and I don't have a preference personally, but I can see how some people would want to. I just think it's important to know what our function is in the town, I guess, as well, knowing that we're the governing board over the town, and, you know, I guess call us what you may, but respect our job. So that's my feelings.
Go ahead.
I was trying to think back to when Dick Bennett was, the last year he served as the chair, because he always referred to this as the select board. And it's the first time I'd heard it. So this is what, 2018, 2019, right in there. Of course, today it's more common, I guess. But even just the change between May's meeting and this meeting, May 23rd top described it as the Selectmen's Board meeting agenda, and today it's the Select Board agenda. So I have no problem with it at all, and I think that if there are things we can do that can identify serving a greater diversity of our town's population, I'm all for it, but I kind of want to chime in on what you said earlier. No scolding allowed. If someone wants to call themselves a selectman or a select woman, I have no problem with it. I have no problem with it either way. So that's my 2 cents.
And I don't honestly think that by saying selectmen, that we're leaving any gender out. I don't think most people feel that way. It's just, but, you know, I just want to say that I don't want anybody to feel like we're slighting women by only saying men. You know, so
I think you and I probably can have a consensus on that, but I think as the younger generations go,
Yeah.
there is much more distinction.
Sure.
So, yeah, you and I may definitely feel that way because we're above a certain age, but I think that for sure the mentality of younger folks do have a preference.
all right.
But
I suppose we can, you know, do the best we can in terms of what we're going to call it. I don't think it's going to, I think there's still going to be a lot of people always going to refer to it as the select men. But as Bob just mentioned, and we're looking here, it does say discussion of select board naming. This has come up in other towns too, and there's another female selectman in Conway. We're not really, hold on a second. Just said I'm a selectman, and I'm a woman, and I don't have a problem with that. Did you want to say something, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, we went through this a little bit, if I go back to 30 years ago compared to today. I mean, we went from calling ourselves firemen to firefighters.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it's nothing new, that's for sure. And what I will say is it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, it will take a little while, but just a point that we went through it, right, Pete?
What? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we had to deal with, you know, the basics of that.
Okay.
can I just make a suggestion then to you two that as the select board, we make every effort we can without being scolded or whatever, but make every effort we can to refer to us as the select board moving forward. It's not going to be an official vote or type of, I guess, official change, but I think if we habitually start trying to refer to us as the select board, it will become more of a habit, and as folks replace us, as we age out, maybe it will become more of a commonplace thing. Like you said, Jay, as firefighters are called firefighters now versus firemen. And I probably would still call you all firemen because I'm 62, so that's just me. But
Can I ask for, I think
is that,
inside of that, if that trickles out into, like, I love how it's on the agenda, or in, I don't know how the e-news gets that information, but, you know, those signals, again, it's we're all doing the best we can.
Yeah.
But it's sending those signals to the larger community that, hey, there's a new away to speak about this. And, you know, at the school board meetings, we've all done the upgrade to calling you all select board.
Right. I don't know if it's selectable, but if it's an upgrade or not, one way or another, but I will say that, you know, we're already honoring your request.
Awesome,
Because it's right on top.
wonderful.
All right, so what happens when people talk, could I talk to the selectmen and not the select board? I mean, you're gonna be answering that, and there'll be people who always call us that, but the Julies put this together, and they have select board right on top, and so I suppose that's tacit approval of what we're doing,
Right.
of what you'd like to see. Is that? All right, well, thank you.
We're
Thank you for coming in and talking about it. Yeah. There you go.
Thanks.
The select kids.
Like select fighters board.
All right, the library, Linda Terry?
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Linda Terry, and I chair the Board of Trustees of the library. And I'm here today to make a request that the town cover the cost of replacing the heat pump, which is located to the left side of the building, and which at this point appears to have become a mouse condominium and is no longer functioning. Probably cannot be repaired because parts are no longer available. My reason for asking the town to pay this cost is because the library is a town building. And I would ask you, what would you do if the air conditioning in the town offices stopped? Do you have funds available to pay for that? I did note in looking through the town annual report that there don't seem to be any expendable trust accounts established to cover this type of an emergency situation, nor are there any capital reserves, and I'd like to plant the seed that maybe we ought to be talking about that going forward. There really aren't a lot of options that I see built into current budgets, in the sense that those have already been approved by voters in the town at the annual town meeting, and we don't have any line items allocable to that. So I would ask for some assistance in helping us get a new heat pump. Also, we feel very strongly that we want to install a heat pump again, because we can use that as a way to diminish our carbon footprint, hopefully cut back on our need for propane, and really use the heat pump during shoulder seasons. My preliminary research with New Hampshire Electric Co-op suggests that there are some incentives for 2023. And in conversation with Jeff Moon, who came over to look at our system yesterday, I asked him what it meant that the incentives were based on a concept of $500 per ton. He told me a ton is 12,000 BTUs. JPL's unit is 60,000 BTUs. Therefore, possibly there's an incentive of $2,500. I would point out that the town's name is on the electric account with the co-op, so I would guess that any incentives could only flow to the town. So with that, I would ask if you have any questions or suggestions on how we can address the problem.
Have you costed out the heat pump replacement that you're looking for?
We have one quote so far from Lenny at
Mountain
View Mechanical, and Lenny's estimate was $8,500. I'm expecting to have an estimate from Jeff Moon shortly, and I've got one other party who agreed to come out and take a look at the system, and that is Rick from White Mountain Heating. I did try to make 3 other calls to companies that were proposed to me by Dick Bennett, and heard that 2 of the 3 no longer are taking new customers, and one had a number that was disconnected. So it's hard to find anyone to do the work.
We have to do something,
Mhm.
all right? We're not gonna let you, you know,
Really?
roast over there for the summer that's coming. I think summer's coming this year, okay, but go ahead, Mark.
So Linda had actually sent me some of this information to kick around before the meeting, and I raised the question with Julie, what had been done in the past for costs for the library, and being that it is a newer, old construction, there haven't been a lot of things that we have needed for the library, and then with the exception of the generator last year, which was through some of the extra funds that we received after COVID, we
And
were
that was
able to.
town, a
Yeah.
grant to the town.
Yeah, so we were able to cover that. So, and same as what Linda said, we don't have any capital reserve funded or expendable trust funds for the library. So we contacted New Hampshire Municipal to get some guidance on that, and they came back with a few different interpretations. One was that if there's need for a major expenditure on a public building, it doesn't matter if it's air conditioner for the library or furnace for the town. If a town building is in need of immediate repair, the town should work together to figure out how to fix it. The only difference is that the library trustees are in charge of the library budget and spend money out of that budget on whatever they see fit, where we can move money around in our budget, and the library doesn't have that power to do that. But it also says that the library trustees are in control of their building, and that including the maintenance of the building, so expenditures for repairs to the building need to come from the library budget, which has been appropriated through the town's budgeting process. Well, we already know that that's been done for the year, so had you known you were gonna need a new air conditioner, you would have appropriated for it. So that sort of doesn't help the situation at all. My question, though, also is the access to other funds that might be available through the libraries, either the March Fund, which I believe is an endowment that has money in it, and then there are some other funds that are available for maintenance of the building. So is any of that available?
Well, any of the accounts that are currently managed by the trustees of trust funds that allow for using funds for maintenance of the library, such as the March account, which is $300,000 plus, would require that we present a warrant and vote on the withdrawal from that account at the town meeting.
Okay.
Now, the library also has several accounts that are currently managed by the library, and in order to tap those accounts, we would have had to included those things in our budget for this past fiscal year. So again, we're looking forward. I don't know, and this is just a kind of an outside the box thought that maybe there's looking into. Don't know whether it's possible. I don't know whether the town has any funds that might be applied to the replacement of the air conditioner, with the idea that next year we would put a warrant article together that would provide for a withdrawal of a comparable amount of funds from the March account to be used in reimbursement for that amount. And I did have a brief conversation today with Helene Matesky, and she didn't have any quick answers on that, but suggested maybe we could explore that idea with Tammy Letson.
She's not with,
okay,
Parsons.
whoever is handling our accounting.
Yeah.
At this point, because I don't know.
That's an interesting thought. And then even if, how much is in our expendable trust fund for our building maintenance, town building maintenance? Is that just for this town building?
yeah.
And it's less than 5,000, I think?
Well, we have the town office in the operating, but that, we don't have an extra 8,000 in there.
Yeah. I'm looking at a net of 6,000 with the 2,500 rebate from New Hampshire Electric Co-op, so hopefully it would come in about that. So, yeah, so $6,000 even by that amount is quite an amount to absorb.
I know that when there was a discussion a few years back when Dick Bennett was here, and it was talking about painting the library, there was money with the Friends, and it was decided that that was the best use of the money. Is the Friends, do they have funds to contribute as well to the, because I mean, if we were to maybe not absorb the whole amount, because we didn't budget for it either, maybe that's something that,
I know the Friends do have money in their accounts that would be able to cover the entire $8,500 cost. However, I'm not sure that we would be able to use a $2,500 credit from the electric co-op if the Friends funds the expenditures. Since the electric account is in the town's name.
yeah, and that was only switched over because of the solar.
Right.
We needed to.
But that's still, I mean,
But-
it's money here, money there.
But you'd be getting the credit on their
Right.
bill.
Yeah,
They'd be getting the credit on their bill.
All right, one at a time, please. Bob, were you about to say something? I
No,
thought you were okay.
no.
Look, we know we have to do something, okay?
Right,
You know, we're just
right,
finding this out, so I think we're gonna have to scour the books.
Mhm.
We're gonna have to look and see where we can find some money.
Mhm.
Maybe someone's listening and said, we can take care of that, right? Some of our great residents out here. So, Linda, I'm sorry, we can't just give you an answer right now, but we gotta do it soon though, okay?
Yeah, I
No, it's
understand.
I believe the hot season's coming, right? So, let us kind of look, unless you guys got any snap judgment on
No,
where we might find it.
I'd like
We have
to-
find it.
I'd like to research the idea of if there's a way to pull money later for funds spent today, that's number one. Number two, also if we can move money or set up some kind of expendable trust fund moving forward. I think that we absolutely have to do that, and that will maybe even come up in the capital improvement plan that the planning board is doing as well. So,
Yeah, it is kind of like the, almost a couple of different issues here, short-term, long-term,
Yeah.
preventive in the future, and, if the Friends were able to contribute, just thinking out loud, the first time I've thought about this, $6,000 and the town was to contribute $2,500, knowing we were gonna get it back,
yeah,
then that would cover this immediate situation that we're in now. And it would almost behoove us, it's like, because maybe next time it's our town office here that doesn't have money in the budget to do the work that is gonna be necessary if something breaks. Everything's expensive, right? So maybe taking a look at the March meeting about that account and seeing if there was something preventative we could do for the next need that arises. I don't know, but I think that, I think we're all thinking out loud. I think I'll be able to come in here prepared at our next meeting to make and/or second a motion to close this issue out.
Right. So if you can talk to the Friends, I think that's what we're talking
Talk
about,
to the
whatever,
Friends
right?
about that. And I'll also see if I can get some more particulars about
Yeah.
the electric co-op incentive and exactly how that works. 'Cause right now I've got a 2-page form.
Sure.
And that only mentioned this concept of $500 per ton.
yeah.
But it was only through the conversation with Jeff Moon that I found out exactly what all that meant.
I know it is out there and it is available because we're doing that through another organization and it's very helpful.
I'm assuming there aren't any ARPA funds available anymore, and again, grants have some lead time attached to them,
Yeah.
and our need is more immediate. I
Mhm.
guess if nothing else, this is a wake-up call that we need to think about
I was
things
just gonna say
like
that
this.
it's a learning process for me for sure on whose responsibility it is for, well, first of all, how much funds are available for the library, for what purposes, for what lead time, and what do we need to do to be more prepared. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
One other thought before I forget about it. Yesterday, when I was here talking with Jeff Moon, and he was looking at our low rodent condo, he suggested it might not be a bad idea at some point to consult with a pest control
Mhm.
operation and find out if there's anything else that can be done to make heat pumps and air conditioners more secure. But if, just looking at the way it's designed, I mean, there are holes that
Any mouse can
any
do.
enterprising mouse could crawl into. I'm surprised it hasn't happened
Yeah.
Sooner.
before.
We're all in this together. We're gonna figure it out, we're gonna do it fast. Bob made a good point, we're all, we'll find the money, we will get it done, can't let you roast over it, so. But, find out a little bit more what you can. And we'll
Don't
do it.
hesitate to contact me as I'm going through the analysis, and I'm happy to do more research myself and provide input, whatever.
Well, I think specifically, are you going to be able to, you know, at our next meeting, when we hopefully finalize the solution, will you have had an opportunity to ensure that there is 6,000 in the Friends account that can be used for this?
Oh, definitely,
Okay,
I can
great.
make sure. I regularly attend the Friends meetings as do Fred and Darlene, and our last report, they I think are well positioned to cover an expenditure of $6,000, although our strong preference would be to see that money used to improve our collections
Yeah,
or technology as opposed to
right.
the infrastructure of the
Yeah,
building.
maybe we could take steps to help to get that out of
Yes.
that other
Right.
Yes,
in March. And if nothing
Yes.
else, this is a great
Right.
example of the responsible, lean budgeting that we all do. That there's not $8,500 just laying around that somebody can put their hands on when they feel like they need it. But at the same time, things happen and we want to make sure maybe next time we're
Yeah.
better equipped to address them.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, all my 18 years, I really haven't run into this where we didn't have something. I just think we've been lucky. But I know if Eddie March were alive today, I knew Eddie, he'd say, just give them the money. You can't do this. Okay. So let's just,
right, and if you have any names of heating and air conditioning contractors you can recommend to me, please let me know. The ones that either weren't taking new customers or had their phones disconnected or
You mean just White Mountain Oil do that stuff?
Yeah.
White Mountain Heating.
Heating,
there's
yes.
like
White Mountain
this.
White Mountain Oil does.
White
They don't.
Mountain
They don't
Oil
do
is
that.
No,
not
sorry, our
bad.
conditioner just went.
Oh, okay.
The solar panels
we do it.
Yeah.
that we
Dana
can
Haley and
install.
Apex aren't
from
taking new
Envision.
customers, and AccuTemp, the number was disconnected, and they don't show a different number. But I'll look at the other White Mountain.
Jay, do you have any people you might know? Who have been, because I know you.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of trying to think of the name.
Kevin, oh yeah.
Well, for number one, I was like $500 and then the price she said, so, I mean, I know Lenny, that
Lenny,
price is
yeah.
like a very good price, and number two is he takes care of
Right,
the ones in town here.
right,
So there's a whole entire thing about maintenance, and if you have a problem,
yeah.
he's usually a phone call away, especially when I call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These other guys, I don't know,
Positive.
they might show up for a week, so.
Okay,
Just a thought.
Is it,
that's good to hear.
Yeah.
is it possible, Julia, just to ask-
Fournier is the only other. What's Mike's name, business name, do you remember?
Who's in it?
Mike Fournier?
Jay?
Can't think of.
Good. I'm just wondering if someone would do it knowing that the town will be behind them to pay them back when the time comes. Say, have it done, and say, look, and, you know, schedule it,
Mhm.
and say, you know, the March money is there, we know it, it's there, we can use it. And I would imagine that a client like Kevin's talking about, if they can get in, they're part of the whole solution, they would be glad to do something, knowing that there's a long-term relationship with us.
Mhm.
So perhaps that's a way of going also,
It's worth exploring.
you know? Right? This was gonna say, I mean, they know what town's good for, but, excuse me, okay.
And I will add to what Kevin said, at
For-profit,
our
30
library,
days.
Yeah, well.
at our library trustee meeting, as we talked about this gentleman, there were 3 people that had used them. One was, she's brand new to the library trustee. So, yeah, and they said they had great experiences.
Yeah.
Somebody used it for 20 years.
We used to buy.
So that, to me, with the difficulty of getting, as we all know, contractors, people to do work, something these days.
Okay, all right, so we got a number of avenues.
Wonderful.
We'll stay on it, give us a call, if something you come up with, let the office know what you're finding out, and, you know, we'll just be, we're amenable, we know something's gonna happen, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, Linda.
Thanks,
Thank you.
thanks. Okay, next up, Gary Allen, our road agent. A couple of things I wanted to ask you, talk about, but something that's been out there in the air now about a roof over the sand pile.
Yeah.
You know, and it sounds like you wonder why we haven't done it in the past, and I'm not sure how many towns actually do it, but how does it make your job more efficient? How is it going to make it more efficient to have, or how does the day start when there's a snowstorm, and kind of go through all of that?
The process in the wintertime, because the sand is out there year round, so like today, every time it rains, the sand absorb all that moisture. So come fall and into winter, as the temperatures drop, everything freezes, that sand pile freezes. So before each storm, we have what's called a grizzly, but it's, it breaks up the sand, we scoop it and dump it through a screen, is what it is. So before each storm, we go through the process of screening what we think we're gonna need for a storm, and then we move it into our salt shed, keep it out of the snow, because that's a pain when you're trying to load trucks and the snow mixes with the sand, that doesn't work. Once it's inside the shed, before we load it into the truck, we have to run it through the screen again, because it freezes again in the shed, but not as solid, and we don't have the snow to deal with. So we set up the screen inside the salt shed and screen it inside there, and then load it into our trucks. At times, with big chunks, it can do damage to the trucks. So each storm, we're adding another 8 to 10 hours of labor that's totally unnecessary every storm. And, you do that for each storm, say just 20 storms a year, and you do it year after year after year. Eventually it would pay for itself.
Yeah.
There are very few towns that do not have their sand covered. It's something that, should have been done probably 10 years ago or
What's
whatever.
the cost?
We're looking at, I believe, around 200,000 to put a roof over that.
Now, isn't it set up for that to have these?
It was built to have a roof on
At
it.
some point.
At
So-
some point,
So the infrastructure is there.
Right.
And who did you speak to about the price?
I talked with Coleman's, and I talked with LA Grew, and they had no interest in doing it, but Coleman's does have interest in doing it. And, they said they have done several of them. That was kind of the figure, I gave them the dimensions of it, and that was the figure they kind of threw at me, would be $200,000. They haven't actually had time to come up and give me a solid
Yeah.
number on it yet, but that would be a ballpark. And, I'm not even sure if they would have time to do it this year. It would probably be next year.
It would have to be.
But that was, something that I think we need to look at to make that investment up there.
Your job is tough enough, for what you have to do and the time you have to go out. And anything we can do to make it easier,
Right.
I have to be all for it.
Right.
And so here we are again in a situation where we don't have the money now, so
Right.
it doesn't sound like you're gonna get through this winter, you're gonna do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, that's
Right.
absolutely, if it takes 2 years to get done.
Well,
It's something that-
It may, that's something we'll have all discuss as far as we, but any comments, Bill?
Just wondering what is available in capital reserve fund or trust fund for the highway department, if anything.
I don't know if we have a fund for anything like that. We have equipment fund, truck
Right.
fund,
Yeah.
heavy equipment fund, but we don't actually have a fund
So nothing
for
else.
nothing for that. No.
It sounds like it would either be a separate warrant article or just
Right.
include it as a line item in their budget, so when their budget comes in $200,000 over what it otherwise would,
Right.
then we would take that opportunity to explain why.
Present it to the town, and,
Yeah.
hopefully they would
Right.
understand.
That's right.
And then have you talked to anyone on the planning board yet about capital improvements?
No.
Okay, so I'm sure
I
someone
didn't
will be
mention
in.
it last time I was in the meeting, did
Yeah.
you mention it?
No, I'm sure they, well, I hope they have.
I don't know if I've seen that, because it's relatively new to some people who've been talking about this.
Yeah,
Um,
because every department should certainly have
Yeah.
a conversation.
Right. Is it at all possible, and I'll ask you, Julie, okay, if that, we start talking about, we've been talking about potential for bonds for, say, a fire station, whatever we do there. Is it possible to borrow enough money and piggyback on a loan from the municipal bond bank and have an expenditure like that?
If I had to guess, I feel like they want them separate, but I could double check.
I thought we looked at that, and it's
Do
very,
they say
very
yes?
specific wording for what it's for.
I-
It's really hard to combine.
Well, I think the accounting part of it, they want it very separated, but I can't confirm, but that would be my guess.
Because remember, we talked about trying to do a warrant article for renovation / repairs /
Refurbish.
new fire station, and they wouldn't allow it.
For a warrant article, maybe?
Yes.
Oh, but she's talking about a bond, I mean, we're not even talking about.
Yeah,
Well,
so
to
if we
get the
came up
bond,
with
you
3
gotta do one.
projects,
Well, right,
Yeah.
but
what the
Oh,
lump sum
okay, so-
of, you know,
okay.
would it be possible? And that's, I
Alright.
think, what you're asking.
Yeah, well, actually.
It'd be interesting to know.
And, you know, but regardless, I think it's a next year thing,
Oh, for sure.
you know? So unfortunately, I wish there was a way, but Jay.
Just as a point, because Gary brought it up, this was part of the discussion of the new highway garage in 2010. And just like everything else, it's the almighty
Yeah,
dollar.
of course.
So the highway garage got shrunk, the enclosed sand building went away, all kinds of things happened because of the almighty dollar, and people thought the highways department was costing too much for the taxpayers. So kind of a similar discussion to everything we go through. So it wasn't like it wasn't thought of.
Oh, no, it was designed for it, but
Yeah.
it just ran out of money or whatever, and didn't want to spend money at the time.
Well, we gotta get out there, we want to. I think this board sees the necessity, I think, based on what you had to say, I mean, my God, to make it more efficient, that much more efficient, I think
Yeah,
is a good thing to strive for. What do you think, Bob?
No, I have nothing.
you know, it's a long-term fix, I mean, it's something that really, I think, needs to be done.
Well, we have to short-term it though, I think.
Right.
I don't
Assuming we want
wanna
it better,
delay
but
it,
it'll be a huge benefit down the road, long-term benefit.
Right, if we, and again, the other part is gonna be, of course, so we'll just say we have the money, we said we can do it, right? How long do you think it's gonna take to get someone to actually do the job?
Well,
You know, that's the other part of it, isn't it?
next year, maybe.
Any-
I mean,
maybe
we're
it's-
at least a year out
Yeah.
to do anything now. I mean, we ordered our new plow truck, which we finally got, and it took us
Mhm.
15 months to get
Mhm.
the truck.
Mhm.
So it's like everything we're looking at is at least a year out.
Well, this is gonna go back into that whole planning thing that we've been talking about. We've got to move forward in this. We haven't really talked about this subject. And again, I've been here a long time, away for a long time. We never discussed it, and never was an issue. But you could see why it would be, and how it would make things better.
Yeah,
One other thing, on top of all that, I'd like to ask you about is, you're still looking for help. You're still looking for a third man.
right.
And what kind of response have you had?
No,
None.
no. And I mean, I have reached out to several younger guys in the valley that are working at other establishments and trying to feel them out as to why no one comes and fills out an application. And the biggest thing is the wages. Everybody that I've talked to, and the younger guys, and they work at a different variety of jobs, everybody seems to be making $30 an hour. And everywhere they work, they have health insurance, they have several weeks off vacation, they have 401k sets up that, you know, the company contributes to. You know, I'm not gonna say that the benefits would be equal to what we have for insurance or retirement,
Right.
but there's a big difference in wages. And I think, you know, that $30 an hour is the base where the young people can live in the valley and raise a family and to make a living. You know, they're not getting rich, but they can make a living with the cost of what it costs to live here.
I see Bartlett also has an ad in for
Everybody
department
does.
personnel.
I mean,
They're about the
Jay called
same.
Conway today, they're short on help, they don't know what.
What was it, but 20 to 22, or somewhere we're talking about right now?
We're advertising 23, we're offering 23
All right.
to start,
Yeah.
and
No, it's-
nobody even applies. And, you know, I went, and these guys I know, and I said, geez, that would make a great employee. And, you know, they're younger guys in their 30s, and, you know, the pay was one, and the other is the winter, what you go through in the wintertime. I talked to a younger guy whose father had done that for a living, and he was like, there's no way I'd ever do it, I just saw what my father went through, there's no way. And I talked to another young guy, they're like, well, you know, we like winter months, that's why we live here, we have a place we go, and we snowmobile winters. So even, you know, if I met their wage now, which is 30, they wouldn't do it at 30, so it would have to be better than that, you'd have to make it worth it. We believe the job that they have because of the winter, you know, what you go through. You know, they work 80, 100 hours a week sometimes. And the town, I tell them, the town owns you in the wintertime, for 6 months, the town owns you.
Right, a new hire, you're getting $30 an hour, what does that do to the rest of the crew? You see,
Well, there you
everything
go.
is with scale,
So
everybody's gotta be
you
scaled.
know, you're gonna have a guy that's
This
dead
is-
here that's working for 25,
This is,
and so it's, I don't know. I mean, the only answer, if we're still short come fall, is that, you know, we may have to do some more, hiring out contractors to help
sure.
fill in the void.
You know,
I mean,
we,
that'll go in at more than $30
Yeah,
an
And that's gonna be a lot more than
Right.
$30 an hour, you know, you're looking probably 5 times that.
so we talk about the future and our capital improvements and all the costs associated with that, and there are operational costs right alongside that, and you're
Right.
just, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Right, it's just a typical.
You know, we've tried, I think, this Board of Selectmen for the last couple of years to bring everybody up to a better
Right.
standard, in good wages and good benefits,
Right,
and I think we've met that, but that's constantly changing.
it is, it's constantly changing. I mean, not to single out Ryan, and Ryan is an excellent employee, he's very happy here. But Hicks Logging up there in Lancaster last week, because his 2 boys have gone to work for them at the golf course, and they offered Ryan $35 an hour to come to work for them. I mean, that,
Is that a year-round job?
with all the benefits, I mean, that's where the wages are at. You know, like you said, he has no intention of doing it, he's happy here. The ride is long, you know, at some point, he may not be here.
Right.
You know, when you can ride 5 miles and make $10 more an hour.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're
Is
going to
it-
deal with in the future.
You know, again, it's gonna be difficult. Can you, you said you've talked to some folks, we're maybe just gonna be ready for when winter does come again. If we can't get anybody, and we're wrestling with this thing, and maybe we have to change our whole wage structure or this or that, but we're gonna have somebody off to the side, someone that
Yeah,
we can, you know, count on, at least for some of these storms.
Yeah,
It doesn't
I mean-
storm all the time, but this was a pretty good year for that. And we know an awful lot of people. Obviously, we have a former highway crew agent here who knows folks. There's plenty of folks around. I think we
that
can,
can
we can
give us
handle
help,
it.
we can get through it, no
Right.
doubt.
But we want to get a full-time person.
Right, because
That's
I mean,
what
it
our
costs
goal is.
more to hire out contract help than to have an employee. But, you know, you actually need year-round. You know, the power company with the cutting up and the slash that they put in our ditches this year, I mean, we need to redo every ditch in this town to get that slash out, because we saw what happened in the May flood culverts, wash out roads.
Right?
That's gonna be a top priority. And, you know, we're still short help trying to do that and maintain, you know, just our normal routine.
Well, the roof is on our radar. So
Okay, that's
we're gonna
great.
be-
That's a
I
long-term
think
thing, which I'd see.
a good
We
efficiency.
need to work on that.
As far as employees, we're doing, everybody doing the best they can to find,
Right.
everybody's competing for people. I had one selectman say, please don't take our guy. You know?
Yeah, all right.
You know,
I know.
There's
You know,
competition for
these
labor out
other
there.
companies would be very upset with me if I knew they were
Yeah.
poaching their
I
employees.
guarantee he would think twice about taking one of yours, though.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right, right. So that's kind of where it's at, but, you know, I have, you know, as the season goes on, you know, if we're not getting any help, I'll have to try to make some plans to hire some contract labor to help pick up some of the slack this winter.
All right, well, keep us abreast of all this,
Absolutely.
okay? I know I'll talk to you, Barbara talk to all of us and come in the office and let us know, and again, we'll try and shake the trees there a little bit, but the wage situation is going to be,
That's the biggest thing why we can't hire, because we're not competitive with private employers. I mean, as another example, Rotten Rock, when they were hiring help away from Bartlett, this was a couple of years ago, I was actually talking to one of the guys that run it, and they said, you know, if we have a good operator, he's reliable, he knows what he's doing, and I know when he goes to a job, he's doing a good job. He said, we'll give him $50 an hour.
Oh, goodness.
So, you know,
Wow.
30 is like a minimum now for everybody. You know, just,
Well,
and these weren't equipment operaters with CDLs and either that I were talking to. These are people that I hired, well, we'll put you through school, get your CDL, so what are we looking at? And they're at, well, we're making 30 right now. And I was just flabbergasted really myself. I was like, you're kidding me. You know, I didn't think they were making anywhere near that.
The other item I had heard from 2 individuals, one when we were looking, before Gary took the job as road agent, when we were looking for that position, was the health insurance. I don't know if reimbursement's the right way to word it, but after retirement. The state, DOT, for example, when you retire, they continue to pay a portion of your health insurance. And I know of one employee that went from the town of Conway to the state of New Hampshire just for that. In one state, when we were talking about Brian back at the road agent time, that was basically the only reason why he said he wouldn't change to come here, because he was gonna be able to make a lot more money an hour to come here, but that insurance benefit after retirement was huge. You know, I know there's a lot of, co-op does that, there's different municipalities that have that insurance thing after retirement. I don't know what the percentage is, but I know it's a big item for people.
We can find out a little bit about that, how that works. You know, it may be just another incentive for someone to say, no, I think I will go with the town, you know? All right, well, Kelly's anything else you'd like to?
Nope, that's pretty much for everything.
So just bring some sunshine.
Yeah, I would, believe me. I want it as bad as you do.
Yeah.
We go and fix the road, then it's wash out again. It's like, never ending cycle.
But some of the places you worked on, they've held up, like I
Yeah,
said.
as long as we don't
get a mess, but
Huge direct rain again, I think the whole thing.
okay. All right, thanks, Gary.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Take it easy. Emily Benson is here to talk about another emergency shelter. Was that?
So
that's
this
what I was
is, yeah, this is the memorandum of
We know
understanding
about it.
for the library to serve as a
Oh, this is
secondary shelter.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had a lot of back and forth, and you all should have a copy of that MOU.
Oh, no, I
Yep.
did not make it.
Yes,
Did I make, oh, I made one copy, sorry.
Okay, here's a copy. Take a look at it. So we had, it wasn't so much on the town end of things, it was more sort of some of the logistics with the library. You know, who do I call the chair of the board, the library director, and they had, you know, the library director coming on. And so I think some of the key things, now I'm not having it in front of me, but that's okay. So we've got sort of a clear line of, basically we have the ability to get into the building regardless of whether it's a town building. But that we will let be in contact with either the library director or the chair of the board to make sure that, you know, we've got that agreement in place. Again, there is not going to be any services that are provided during that time. That was the other thing. And please chime in if I'm missing something too.
Listening to you.
Yeah, because it was like, great, we can go and we can check out books. You know, if it's open specifically for a secondary shelter, we're going to be operating in that mode. The nice thing is that 2 of their employees have come forward to me to serve as volunteers, just in general during emergency scenarios. So you know, I've got them on our volunteer list. So there's kind of that duality of that. There is not going to be refrigeration or kitchen facilities really available. It's really kind of the main thing is what we found in the last event where we did open the Whitney. Luckily, all people were really concerned about was plugging in their devices.
Right.
And so that's kind of where it is. And I just sort of explain a little bit more sort of how the process runs in terms of, you know, I don't open up a shelter without letting the state know that we're at that level. So I think the bottom line is hopefully none of this will ever have to be activated.
At least not before we get air conditioning over there.
Well, that was what was taken out. It's not a cooling shelter at this point.
It's not a cooling shelter.
Yeah.
No, it's just to keep you comfortable. I mean, at this
Yeah.
point, I mean, it has to be hot outside.
Yeah.
The generator limits what we can do, so.
Even if there was cooling,
Okay.
available, right? Because it's not on the generator.
Right, it's not on the generator.
Yeah, so.
It's just a jest.
Yeah, and Julie and I went back, there was, I mean, I kind of used a template from another town somewhere in the country when I was going through this. And it was interesting just since it's a one and the same town building in terms of the insurance pieces to all of it, we contacted Primex and how that all works.
No expiration date on this, no.
No, so you'll see towards the end, it is, you can end it within 30 days, but otherwise it's in perpetuity. Yeah.
Amended, yeah.
Yeah, so, and I just reference
60
at the
days.
bottom, the chapter in the emergency operations plan. It really, the EOP chapter, the providing of, human services and shelters, most of that really focuses on the primary shelters, but I did that for the Board of Trustees in case we wanted to do some interesting reading of the emergency operations plan. It just kind of gives you an idea of some of the different things. But there is an explanation, sort of what the shelter is intended to provide. And again, that would be a secondary activation. It wouldn't be the best one, so.
So I apologize because I was kind of reading at the same time I was listening, but
Oh, that's good.
did this go to the library Board of Trustees already?
Yes,
Okay, cool.
very good point. So I was at their meeting, I've been at their meetings a couple times, and Linda she apologized, she had to leave, but she said that everything looks good. So now the idea is that if it's good with you all, you sign off, then I'll take it to them. We just need one of their board to sign off on that. Sort of where the school is as well with the Whitney. You all signed off, it's gone to the SAU. They're signing off, then it comes back to me, and then everything will go into the emergency operations plan here. And I'll make copies so we have those original signatures. So.
I would like to make one comment.
Yes,
Emily has really done a superb job. She's come to at least 2 or 3 trustee meetings. I'm on the Whitney committee as well for the school board, and
That's right.
I know, I've got every MOU or whatever they are. She does a thorough job. She's patient. We've thrown out things that we thought, and she's patient with us and goes off and makes the corrections. Come back. She's patient with us, so.
Her husband's over there, Pete.
So I did, and full disclosure, I did not pay Darlene to say
Oh,
that.
Just wondering.
no, but it's appreciated. It's
Well,
a
thank
new
you.
kind of thing to us in the beginning.
I think we were all learning, and I think what the biggest thing with both of these buildings was a better understanding of all the different entities who have their, jurisdiction, so learning all around.
Do you guys have any questions?
Seems
Can I
pretty
make a
solid.
motion?
You want to
Yeah.
make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to sign the library MOU for the emergency plan.
Second?
Concise enough?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I'll let you know.
So I'm watching the signature here.
Yeah,
Because then,
make sure that's right,
Yeah.
to come back to get it.
so looking at the Julie, so I'm going to then take this and I will get it to Linda, and then I'll bring it back to you. And then that's awesome. Thank you.
I'll ditto what you said, Marlene. Emily, thanks for all you're doing to get all these ducks in a row so we have a plan, an actual
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah. Because we did it without all this before, but as was recommended,
Yeah,
maybe we should have these.
very nice.
So,
Yeah, it's an only required one signature, she just got a signature
Yeah, it's
from
just
the
one
library
signature.
and the trustees.
yeah, then I'll take it to the
All
library.
right, thanks.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You can take off the sign here and sticky note.
I love those. I'll use it for something else. I'll give it to Linda.
There's something with them yet.
All right, up next, the fire chief, Jay Henry, he gives some updates.
I'm gonna get closer to some news that we want.
That's fine.
You want up?
No, I'll back you up.
I got some updates for some stuff that I've worked on since we met last, I guess, last selectmen's meeting. The first item, which Emily can probably answer most of this way better than me, and Bob, because he was on the phone call, but We have been studying grants a little bit since the last meeting. We had a meeting with Senator Custer,
Yeah,
right?
Stephanie Weiner.
State.
So we did have some discussion on some grant stuff for buildings. The short story, I think, is it doesn't look all that great. I mean, there is a couple of possible things. I'll let you highlight on that, I guess, if you want.
Should I do that now? Okay, yeah, I mean, I just, and this is where, yeah, I have not sort of followed up on that meeting. Yeah, Bob was able to attend. But what was really interesting is some of the different avenues which were explained to us by another colleague of Stephanie's in Custer's office, Ryan, who I think that the most promising one is there is a Firehouse Act that's coming before that they're actually literally putting together. So I don't see that until possibly next year, the following year, that basically creating a Firehouse Act that would be specifically for disbursement of funding at the federal level to firehouse building, which is exactly what you want, but as Jay alludes to, it's the idea that, of course, it goes to communities that are most in need, so that's one of the challenges.
Our medium income definitely
Yeah.
was against us through
Yeah.
about everything we talked about.
Yeah. There's some additional expenditures through, that was explained to us, to contact Sarah Shaheen regarding, they call it community project funding, like pork belly funding, where senators and congressmen are able to bring specific projects to Congress, to the Appropriations Committee. And those applications are reviewed for funding and goes on to the next level. That sounds like it's a pretty quick process. You know, we'd love to know, without going through a whole huge application process, do we even qualify?
Right.
And then go on from there. So, so I need to dig into that a little bit more. But I don't know, Bob, if you had anything more to add from that meeting, or?
No, that was
Yeah.
pretty much, I mean,
We are
I
looking.
was on oxycodone that day, so I don't know, there wasn't a lot that really sunk in tight with me, but.
I was wondering,
Yeah.
he's on some meds right now, I think.
He was smiling.
He's not able to.
No, I think the big thing about grants is they're very time consuming and it
Yeah.
requires a huge commitment. And, you know, to know that you're not gonna be able to do much about changing the need rubric.
Right, yeah. You've got a great background in grants too, so that's
You
like,
know, I mean, and I mean, let's face it, we're not a property poor town.
Right.
And that's what really identifies needs in this state more than anything,
Yeah.
is if you are a property poor town, you're way ahead of us in line. So,
okay.
so, but I thought there were some interesting options there worth pursuing.
Yeah, the Leary Firefighters Fund, I mean, that's not gonna get us a firehouse, but again, anyways.
Yeah, it wasn't, I looked,
Yeah.
it definitely wasn't firehouse stuff.
No,
It was
it's-
equipment.
Can I ask a quick question? The grants you were looking at, is that for the full project or just a portion of it, or what?
Whatever
It-
they'll do.
Anything.
It could be anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Peter, you have something to say?
I was on this call, and not on Oxy that day, but.
That's right. That's right.
Quiet about it. There are some potential low-interest loans, though, that we might be able to take advantage of, that would be theoretically cheaper than bonding authority. So that is something we might want to look into. Again, all depends on the rates and the timing. But I think it's through actually Department of Agriculture, is that right?
Yeah, that's a good
Back
point.
to USDA.
Department of Ag,
Yeah.
for those loans, let's see, community project funding. Yeah, so that, I've got all of that info, but looking at some of those, you know, maybe we get a good loan rate.
We didn't talk about specific interest rates when that came up on the call.
I don't think they
No,
do.
it certainly wasn't
And
the,
so I was wondering, like, why would this be better than a bond?
Right.
They are traditionally lower, you're saying?
Yeah, that's what makes them attractive, is that you have borrowing authority, or borrowing power from the feds that is theoretically cheaper than you could get from a bond.
Mm.
Not much, but every
Yeah.
little
Every
bit.
penny.
Right.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the things that they were saying to really kind of mention, and it was stated, and I'm not sure who did this, but it stated, we have the oldest firehouse in the state, 36, is that something that was, and then just looking at our, Forest Service obligations,
Right.
that kind of
Right.
pulled us up a little bit.
And that Route 16 corridor, that's
Yes,
a major
and that's
throughway.
another huge thing, yeah, so.
And responsibility. We've probably got mutual aid agreements with Gorham, don't we?
We don't have a so-called written one, but we do mutual aid with each other.
There's another MOU.
Yeehaw.
Well,
So,
time is of the essence here, because I
Yeah.
think we've been talking about how we like to sort of get this and move forward.
Right.
So if you're looking for these grants and waiting and waiting and waiting, it puts everything, any other possibility off, like a bond
yeah,
or some of that. So we gotta time this thing out, right?
well, and that's what, with the whole, town meeting cycle, getting on this earlier rather than later.
Yeah.
And so, I was concocting a spreadsheet of opportunities in my mind, how to
You
say
said
that.
spreadsheet, it's so sexy.
Yeah.
I guess this conversation kind of makes that federal loan opportunity seem
Mhm.
better than it did at the time.
Right.
Well,
Or
and-
more,
yeah, I mean, I think that the thing is the more prep we do and really have our stuff in a row, that's what they were saying, like,
yeah, right.
hey, if you look prepared,
Shovel ready.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it was, you had to have a
Shovel ready.
contractor picked and you had to have a plan.
Yeah,
With a
So
couple
that's
of-
where it gets to,
right.
what is the plan?
Thank you.
Work to do, yeah,
So,
for sure.
the short, we're trying, but
So then if we had a plan, whatever it was, and it came to the point where we were ready to seek an interest rate on one of those loans, I'm just wondering what the time frame, because that didn't really come up either, and I didn't, other than asking, but,
Yeah.
not really find somebody who's got the
there might be
time to
follow-up there. There might be-
really dig in with USDA or would
Just, yeah,
And I hope I can do that.
So how low are we talking? I know that
we don't know.
the municipal bond bank is like just a little over 4 right now.
I
Um,
know, yeah.
So that's a place to start. Obviously, it's higher than it's been, still lower than a lot of other places, but that's,
Well, no, but obviously have to be, timing, like you said, if
Yeah.
it can be done soon enough to
yeah,
so we can make
pull
it.
the cord when town meeting happens.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, 4.15%. Those things are always changing, of course. So we gotta kind of figure that out. We don't want to put things off. We want to get this thing moving.
So the second item I wanted to bring up, I know there was some talk about, I know Frank, you brought up, and we discussed this a week ago or so, about the size of fire stations. I wanted to
Or talk about this,
I wanted to-
scaling it
I wanted to bring that up because basically the plan that we have been going with, that we have as of now, is just like we proposed, 80 by 100. So 80 by 100 is basically bare minimum for us to move forward. There is no extra space. We didn't have extra space for an extra fire truck. We don't have extra space for an extra office. We don't have, a living room. We don't have
Exercise.
athletic room with weights and benches and things like that. This is bare bones minimum. There is no, you gotta be able to be half as big. It's not. It's 8,000 square feet. Our existing building is within like 6,800, I think was the last time Kevin and I measured it. The numbers were just about like that. So I just wanted to kind of a reminder that as far as the size of it, we are definitely not above board or asking for anything extra. It is minimal.
was suggested to me about and I think when we were talking, and I was just grousing, saying about like the highway department, like that kind of a building, and use a building sort of like that and retrofit it so that it can work for a fire department. Is that?
I've actually got the layout of the highway department just like this, and the square footage of floor space for trucks does work. I've got pictures of all the fire trucks parked inside the highway garage that we did a year or two ago. But it's the rest of the space that, the highway department has one office, one bathroom, a break room, smaller than about the size of that closet over there. So, of course, with everything we do, with, the amount of people, employees, and the calls we go on, you can't just have that space. So, time you figure out that extra space, it's 8,000 is the minimum. The highway garage is like
6240.
something like that, yeah. It's just a hair smaller than the fire station.
And the fire station is running in somewhere between 67 and 68.
Yeah.
So in context, so it's 1,200 square feet more than the existing fire station, the way it measures out, which is about half the size of an average home.
Peter?
I would just add, in regard to the space, it's, there's square footage and then there's usable space.
Right.
The new space would be utilized much better than the old space.
And that's what the difference is. You've got a training staff room, and you've got an adequate workshop where you can work on and maintain your equipment. There's a lot of really expensive stuff in there. And I think there's a total of 1, 2, 3 separate toilet rooms. And we talked about this today, and depending on where this goes and what it looks like and what the layout is, there's a way to take this blueprint and move one toilet and swap it out with an electric room, and maybe you've got a couple of outdoor access to public restrooms that could be left open during the day from 9 to 4. Something like that, multi-use.
You mean so we don't have a discussion a year from then about public restrooms? Is that what you're thinking?
It's possible. It's possible. And that's just some
Yeah.
thinking
Afterthought.
right off the top of our heads. But it would be nice if it's going to be located in the village here, one place or another, for that to serve that purpose also. You just never know. But we're a long way away from seeing something like that recommended. But it is tight. You look where they need, how many people that need gear, how many people that need to access that training room and keep up with their professional development and CEUs and all that. And it's like 1,200 square feet larger than where they're at now, which is a pretty minimal expansion.
Peter? My only other comment is just the cautionary tale about building to the minimum. We've learned that lesson in a couple of other buildings, including the one we're sitting in. Is like, you go for the minimum, suddenly it's so hard to add on to it or utilize your space because it becomes too small very quickly. We run into that here for a number of reasons. Up at the town garage, we run into it for a number of reasons. The schools run into it for a number of reasons because we try to go, all right, what is the least amount that we need? Instead of saying, well, if we make it just a little bit more, in the long run, it's a better investment because it would have been probably cheaper. So
And we just discussed it a half hour ago.
we did.
When we were doing the highway garage in 2010, it was the minimum. It doesn't have to be this big. You don't have to have this much needed space. You don't have to have a roof over the sand building. And here we are, talking about putting a roof over the sand building.
So, is there is this just correct me if I'm wrong, is this the $5.7 million
This is the building, and the layout that was estimated at 5.7, which, how do I want to word this?
Well, I think looking in hindsight, we're still trying to figure out how we came up with the 5.7 million, because when we look back at the numbers, we can't get that high on the number. However, that being said, it was also it was way too high on the estimate. So the building that you're looking at, yes, is the building that was proposed 2 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
But Jay is working diligently on getting current costs for this building and looking at what can be, what might be in there that was not asked for or not needed. Because there are some things on those line items that can be taken out or modified or whatever that.
The estimate that was given to us, they didn't really show us much mercy, I guess. It was like,
They put a Jackson factory in
it's
there.
Jackson and we're gonna throw this number at you. So we didn't, that's part of the reason why when it came time to put it on the budget, I wasn't ready. Because I knew that number wasn't right.
You didn't have faith in the number.
But
It
it was
was-
heavily inflated. And I think that taking this building and starting from scratch and saying, what would this building take to build today is the way to go, because it's a different world than it was when we priced this out and got a price for it, I'll put it that way, years ago. So taking this, saying, what do we really want to bring it in at actual costs, and then saying, what can we, first of all, what do the taxpayers want?
Right.
What do they want to pay for? What would the effective tax rate difference be? We have to answer all of those big questions soon.
And hopefully by the next Friday morning, I'm supposed to meet with the builder. I tried twice, and I think this time he's gonna commit to coming up Friday morning.
Right.
To try to get a real up-to-date number with a chance for me to ask him a lot of questions. He built North Conway's fire station, he built Twin Mountains Fire Station recently. If I'm gonna get a good number, it's gonna be about as good as it can get from him. So that's planned for Friday, so the next meeting, I should have some more info. The other item I have that I've been working on is location options. So, back up just a hair. As of right now, this is the plan for the existing location, which basically is our plan. What I am doing diligently as is I am studying, I'm re-examining a previous alternative site, which is the tennis courts. Or, I don't know how long you've lived here, you might or might not know where the tennis courts are.
Where we park people.
But the overflow parking, tennis courts.
Or you used to always play tennis, right?
Well, I used to go a lot over there when I was a kid, but I think it wasn't tennis. Arthur had a sugar shack over there.
Oh, yeah?
Remember that?
Arthur Furley, yeah.
Strike that from the minutes.
So I've been working on that. It's definitely a little snugger than that site. It's doable. And there's a couple different layouts, so there's nothing specific here. You can see the library and the selectman's office, with a fire station over at the tennis courts. Here's another one with a different position of the fire station. And this actual one was a combination of Bert Phillips and Sam and Delia at the time of our study, which it's a little more bulky. The information that I do have is the building is the building. So when I get the costs on the building, unless we do something drastically different, the cost of the building is the cost of the building. The big difference between this site and that site is excavation costs. So since we met last, I've had a bunch of meetings with Kyler from LA Drew on the excavation side. We know that the existing site is fairly expensive because of all the infrastructure changes. This site is $500,000 less right now on a study estimate. $500,000 less on the excavation because it's pretty straightforward, it's fresh ground. I've got a pros and cons list.
Could I just ask you one thing about excavation? Couldn't we do that?
This
you
would
don't have the
be,
equipment.
there's some stuff that we could do for sure, probably to save some money, but
Yeah, I suppose.
as far as the entire project, this would be a lot more difficult than what I did with the highway garage. as far as the town doing as much.
Mhm.
It would be a little harder. I mean, I'm not gonna say we couldn't do some stuff, but
I think
it would definitely be harder.
I think it would be good to aim for, to see if we can help out a little
I-
bit,
it's-
erode some of that price. You don't have to, you just.
Yeah, there's a lot of difficulties that would make that much more difficult right now than it was at the time of the highway crash. The pros and cons list is pretty straightforward and simple. On the existing site, the pro is site location is already sold to taxpayers. Spaced out well with other buildings, and there's a possibility of future growth at the existing location. The cons for that existing site is very expensive infrastructure costs. You gotta move the power, you gotta move the septic, you gotta build a whole new access road for the highway. The power lines has issues, which is location of utilities, not ideal. Driveway site distance over there is not ideal. There's definitely some issues with the DOT driveway permit. Shared use of the driveway with the highway department and the police department definitely gets congested. Not that it's not doable, but it definitely can be congested. Over here to the tennis courts or the overflow parking area. The pros, easier infrastructure, cost to complete the new facility. It's looking like it's $500,000 cheaper on the excavation. Better access for the public, I think over here, depending, be easier if you came to the selectman's office to get in there than it probably is to maneuver over there and try to cross a busier road with big trucks, dump trucks and graders and such. The driveway site distance is better here. The cons, less space around the outside of the building. It's a little more congested here as far as being close to the library and close to the selectman's office than it is over there. The big con over here is there's pretty much no room for future growth. If anybody really wants to look at future growth, which is extremely difficult to try to figure out what's going to happen in 30, 40 years. The other item I wanted to discuss a little bit is public meetings. I know we're going to talk about this at pretty much every selectmen's meeting from here to the fall. But I'd love to figure out a way to set up some public meetings where we could get people to come to and voice their opinion. And we got 3 people here today, but I'd love to figure out a way to have a public meeting with 15, 20, or even a lot more than that, and actually get people to come and voice your opinion, whatever that may be.
Jay, could I stop you just for a moment? Because Julie had a question.
Yeah, I was just wondering, if over here, what about the septic system of the library?
It would be moved in probably a shared septic between the library and the fire
Okay.
station.
Okay, just curious.
And I have actually I got some really good conversation with Burr about that whole thing over there and the septic at no cost so far.
I think that when you talk about the public meetings too, that getting these costs done as accurately as we can, as quickly as possible, and not rushing into it so we don't have an accurate price isn't gonna solve anything. But once we get that dollar, and saying to the taxpayers to do a survey at the library on a few Saturdays or weekdays and saying, if we wanted to present a new fire station that was gonna cost X dollars per your tax dollar, increase your taxes by this, that's what people are really gonna hear amongst all the other things. They may wanna see more detail, more pictures, more representation, etc. But until we have that number, I really think we're at, we can't throw things in front of them as easily as we can when we have that number. That being said, I'm a big proponent of more people at more meetings, not just the town meeting, because the more information and attendance we can get before then, and the more feedback we can get from the taxpayers is important, whether we do a mailing or something that gives us more public opinion, then we'll know which direction it's going.
And it's not too early.
No,
Julie
for
tells me
sure.
always, it's not too early. We have to really get on this stuff, because she's exactly right. What are people gonna be looking for? Okay,
Yeah.
what is this structure, and what's going to be the hit to the tax rate?
Mhm.
We gotta know that. And again, it's not in a vacuum, because we have other considerations too, so this is how people are gonna vote. And also remind people that it's going to require, if we do a bond, 2/3 vote to pass this, so it's good to really sharpen your pencil and do the best you can with those folks. But good, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
The other item I've worked on is been looking at options for surveys, if we thought a survey of some sort is doable, if we could ever come up with the right questions and without turning it into a gigantic fiasco. So we have looked at that, asked some questions. Julie's brought it up, and we have looked that over and trying to figure out that side of it. And like I said, I'm doing everything I can to try to come up with a real cost number that's not overly inflated, but not too low. We'll see what I can come up with here. And I guess that's what I got for now.
Do you have somebody working with you? Good.
Go ahead.
Bob, I worked with Bob a few times. Peter's always there for discussion with me. But that's so far has been the.
It typically takes up half of our liaison time every time I go over, just because it's the issue.
Yeah,
right? But
sure.
we go over other things too, whether it's a fire pond or a hotel or whatever in town. But what I liked about what you said earlier is I think you're right. I think we need to identify milestones that are going to indicate to us that we're ready to be more public with what we know. And I don't know what those milestones are. Certainly a hard number, it certainly makes a lot of sense. Alternatives, payment options, all of these things. That's why it's probably not too early to get a somewhat of an understanding of what that federal loan opportunity could do to save us money. And I would love to see us, really, gosh, I hate to set deadlines on the calendar, but we need to be ready we need to be prepared, and whether it's, digital presentation along with it, all of that stuff that it can help the voter understand and visualize just what we're proposing. September, October, we don't need any later than that.
Well, we have the summer crowd now, with folks that come up here during the summer that are and I think taxpayers, because that's who's going to be, taxpayers, voters, because those are the ones that are going to be really the input, the taxpayers as well, because they have provided input. And if we get a really resounding no, then we have to go back to the drawing board and say, what do we cut out, or what do we do to reduce the cost, and go from there. We have to start with the public. I'd love to create a flyer, a QR code that people can scan, so however rushed you are at the post office, you walk away with some way to get more knowledge, and then more meetings, anything we can do.
The other thing I'm going to try to do, and I talked to Peter about it recently, is I'm going to try to do some kind of a simple open house, like, maybe some different times, or 9 to 11, come to the fire department, meet a few of the officers and have coffee and ask questions or voice your opinions. Anybody's got any suggestions how we could actually get people to show up or pass the word around?
We can also use the media.
Usually any Tuesday is a good time to come. So if anybody knows anybody that has particular interest in that, tell them to come down, whatever their opinion is.
And I think using the media too would be important to get it out there to some folks who might not just come to meetings, but they'll be able to read it or hear it wherever it might be. I'm not focusing on one particular meeting, but possibility. But I think this goes a long way. This helps. This is the road that we're on right now. You coming here, showing this again, talking about this, finding out that there may be some other government money. And also you're going to start asking questions about maybe we can get this down to a better price for us and still give us everything we need. We don't know that yet. Okay, and then, of course, it's gonna be our job to find out what the municipal bond bank and/or the government will give us, so we can say to the town, this is what we're proposing, and this is what it's gonna cost, and this is what's gonna do your tax rate.
Mhm.
And then they'll vote. Hopefully this year.
All right, well,
Is that okay?
yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Well, I did, the regular stuff we went over during the liaison time was just, an embankment repair job done on the fire pond on Valley Cross Road, you know, just to segue right into the regular stuff and, just going over again, and this is the other item of discussion that's always up there. What are we doing right now for the maintenance of the fire station so that we can still keep it operable? And roof repair of the storage room, garage door replacements been ordered, electrical repairs. Still to be done, some of those electrical repairs, right?
we're not-
Have already been completed.
It seems like electrical stuff is always coming up.
Yeah, right.
But we're not in too bad shape on electrical repairs.
And this may segue into Kevin's presentation later, but there's an ongoing code review and construction inspection at the carriage house renovation project at the Eagle Mountain as well. That's
Yeah.
discussed. So that's it on the liaison piece.
Ongoing project.
Yep.
Just leave it at
Other than
that.
that, Jay's just doing nothing up there all day. Yeah. Thanks, Jay. Thanks for bringing all this in. Very organized way to present this stuff that we have.
All right, next up is trustee of the trust fund, funding withdrawal. Jackson Selectmen authorized a transfer of $53,000 to be deposited into the capital reserve funds and the expendable trust funds per the warrant articles listed below.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Jay.
Bartlett Jackson Ambulance, 0070, Article 4, $50,000, and a revaluation of town property. Article 4, $3,000, for a total of $53,000.
I'll make a motion to approve those trustee funds.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Something's just going on. All right. Okay, so the Mount Washington Valley.
Bob? Bob?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you have a withdrawal
These are
and a
withdrawals.
funding.
Oh, this is the withdrawal. Okay, sorry, here we go. Withdrawal from this, okay. $3,800. Should I read all of these?
You gotta read it,
Yes.
just exactly.
What we're trying to do, trust fund is indicated below. $3,850 from the dry hydrant expendable trust fund 0049. Invoice number 464263, amount $1,650, dated May 20th, 2023 for FF&J, that's left. Invoice number 1411345, amount $886, dated May 9th, 2023 to Water Industries Limited. Invoice number 68411, amount $852, dated 5/12/2023 to Elvin Coleman and Son. Invoice number 4055, amount $412.50, dated 5/15/2023 to Glenn Aggregates Limited. $3,359.14 for the Fire Department Maintenance Expendable Trust Fund 0075. Invoice number 2931, amount $1,223.26, dated on 6/3 for Tierney Electric Contracting. And invoice number 2933, amount $2135, dated 6/3/2023. Again, Tierney Electrical Contracting. Is there any discussion on this, or is it pretty straightforward? So, no?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Mount Washington Valley Economic Council, Scott Badger, who's been on it since the beginning, wants to stay on it. And, you know, Julie and I spoke a little bit about this, and they talk about an alternate, but I guess he just never misses. He's always there. We can count on him. I offered myself up to it, okay, I would do it, but I don't think I'd ever be needed. So, I can be like the standby possibility,
Be the alternate.
right? So I don't know if we should just sort of be the alternate, and then, so I'm never used, right? And that's okay, if that's what happens. But at least we'll have somebody, because I know all those folks over there also.
Yeah.
So that'd be fine. So why don't we make a motion to, I'll make a motion to appoint Scott Badger once again as a representative for the Mount Washington Valley Economic Council. Let's do that part first.
Okay, I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, whether we need an alternate or not, we don't know. But if we do, all
I
right,
will nominate you to be the alternate.
I'll second that.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. And we got that covered. Yeah.
Thanks for taking one on the team there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
How many more meetings does that mean now? It was 11 last time. I missed the first one, so it's only 10. All right, extended liquor license, Wentworth Golf Course, they're having this is the big golf tournament down there, right? So someone want to make a motion to,
I'll make a motion to approve the extended liquor license for the Wentworth Golf Club.
I'll second that.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Signature.
Oh, yeah, this one. Okay, a cemetery lot agreement. There are two of them. And do I have to read all of this too? No, let me just say, the names maybe. Paid for by Francis O'Shea. Said lots being numbered 882 in the village cemetery. And there's one for, or there's two actually for Francis O'Shea. Two agreements, 883 on the map, and again, the village cemetery. Would someone like to make a motion to go along with this cemetery lot agreement?
Make a motion that we approve the cemetery lot agreements that have been brought to the town.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion passed. Let me finish that right off. The motion passed. Okay, good. Okay, we have an intent to cut. Okay. This is, you probably, I don't know if anybody else that came in. This was the late news. And an intent to cut on Overlook Drive. Where is it? I'm trying to see.
I wrote
R30
it on the
lot
board.
17. Map R30 lot 17, New England Forestry Foundation.
Oh, I just said
It's on
the
this
map
meeting.
and one's on the orange
Motion
sheet.
included. That's all I have to do is look at it.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion that we accept this intent to cut on map R30 lot 17. All those in favor?
I'll second that,
All right.
and then I'll vote.
Aye, aye. Okay, we're good. And the date is 6/13/2023. Okay, short-term rentals, Lippman, or Lippman on 39 Green Hill Road.
Sorry, I'm gonna interrupt for a second. Is there anything on the facility?
Oh,
No, no, thank you.
Apologies.
No, that's okay. No
It said
updates
pending,
tonight.
so that's not happening, okay. All right, and so Lippman on Green Hill Road, a 2-bedroom tax card, 2-bedroom septic, advertising 2 rooms, sleep 6, okay. We'll send Vacasa link soon, they're going to do that, but I think someone want to make a motion to accept that?
I will make a motion to accept
Accept
the
the
Lippman's agreement.
Okay,
I'll second it.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. And then we have Harvey, and it's pending, it was, okay, and Harvey, it was determined, I'm gonna get you in this in a minute.
Mhm.
It was determined that they do not have an egress issue. You listening, Kevin?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. They have removed their advertisement and the violation notice has been rescinded. Okay, but Barb, you might have something to say more about this, was that one, okay?
Nope.
All right. This, okay, all right, well, fine, so,
It's the next one that I was questioning.
oh, that's Malloy,
Mhm.
okay, I'm sorry, all right. So, all those, I make a motion to accept the Harvey.
No, we don't
No,
have to make
wait a
it,
minute.
we're just
You- you-
rescinding
you
the
have it.
violation, so
Oh, so
that's
that's
it.
it, okay,
Yeah.
all right, good. All right, and then, Malloy,
So the Malloy case is where they are renting without a conditional use permit. We sent them the certified violation notice, and we still have not heard back. And we know that they have received it because the green card for certified mail was received. So I was questioning whether or not we should post something on the door of the short-term rental that says violation notice to get the attention of the owners perhaps. Because if I were renting there and I saw a violation notice on the front door, I might be a little concerned as a renter, and that might get the attention that the owners have to respond to us. So that was just my question of what you guys think of that idea.
Do we have the right to do that?
Yes, we do, check
Okay.
with legal counsel.
And have they been cited for, and have they been fined yet for any of this?
That's up to you guys, I think.
No, we
if you want to
can-
find them.
Yeah, so right now, we haven't because we can find them, and I think that's in the bold print up top where it says, failure to take corrective action may result in a misdemeanor if a natural person felony, blah, blah. Civil penalties of $275 for the first offense and $550 for subsequent offenses for each day that such a violation is found to continue. Right now, if we wanted to fine them, we could fine them up to like $8,000. I don't think that's our intent at this point, because I want to try to get their attention so they can register their short-term rental. Our goal as a town, in my opinion, is to have friendly landowners that can have short-term rentals here as much as we like or don't like them. So I'd like to get the attention of the owners. We've tried to reach out to them through certified mail, but they're still not responding. We can send them another certified notice. We can also make a motion to file a penalty amount. So we have a couple of options.
Well, I think we did get their attention when we served them with the certified mail. They obviously accepted it. And so that's disappointing that we haven't gotten a response after getting their attention. But I get it. And so I think, would it be appropriate to send another letter letting them know that when these fines will begin if we don't hear from them, or?
We have the option of fining them now for $275.
Do you think
and
we
have-
should?
I think we should at this point.
Okay.
I do. I think it's in our right. It's the second, not the second violation, but the second notice on the first violation.
right?
And so what constitutes a subsequent offense when they turn around and then try and put it under agreement for another short-term rental?
They're
or-
still renting it. They're still advertising it. So they're just not following the rules of filing
Right.
for the conditional use permit. So every day that they're violating this, and if I make sure I'm getting this right, and if not, we can also ask Jason Dennis to comment more.
Mhm.
But for the first offense, it's $275. So if we know they've rented it once, that's a $275 offense. For every other offense or subsequent offense, it's $550 plus a daily amount on top of that. So every time they have a new rental,
Right,
basically it's an offense.
okay.
So we
That's
can
what it
go
was.
guns on these guys, but I just don't, I want to see why they're not responding to
Right.
us.
Yeah.
I did leave them a voicemail
Yeah.
also, and have not heard from them.
Where do they live, the owners?
Town Hall Road?
Oh, they're right here.
They're-
local.
It's Herb Road.
Oh, sorry, Hood Road, it's
Yeah,
on
it's just
Town
off
Hall.
Town Road, up on the third section.
That's their short-term rental, but where do they live? Where do
Oh,
we send
it's somewhere in
notices? In
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, so,
That's what I was wondering.
yeah,
But so far, they've just been ignoring us, is that
Yes.
basically what we're talking about?
exactly.
And the $275 fine is because they're violating the zoning ordinance. And
Right,
that's
that
a
has to
statute.
Mm.
That's an RSA
Okay.
that does.
So
that.
I'd rather ask stupid questions than pretend I know about this stuff. So how do we collect the $275? Is this a lien process that begins, or how does this look?
Honestly, we haven't had to do these often. I think one other time we've had a violation notice that we collected on, and it was through a violation letter, so it's a next letter that we've sent certified and with the amount of $275 due, and still requiring that they file for a conditional use permit.
And does that letter talk about a lien if it's not paid? Or
No.
what are the teeth after that gets ignored?
I don't have a copy of the
Yeah.
first it's all written out in that first violation notice we sent. But we prepared a second violation notice, and I think it's in there as well, if you want to read it.
You want me to read this whole thing?
Well, not the whole thing, but at the bottom of the,
Inappropriate to post a letter to, would it be inappropriate?
no, the
In the stack
actual,
of paper.
It's,
in the
it's
paperwork.
attached to that.
Yeah,
The letter that was drafted.
it might be, it's right under your thumb, because it's where it says sign here. No, Frank, right there. Does that say
That's the
second?
second notice, Tim.
Right.
If we
Okay.
want to file the
Yeah,
second
you
notice.
read like the last sentence or
Using a dwelling
paragraph.
unit for a short-term rental without a conditional use permit is what we're, right? Is that what you want me to? Since we
Look at the
know
last paragraph.
they received the violation notice as,
Paragraph like this.
oh, it's on the back side of this one, okay. The appeal to zoning board of adjustment, is that what you're talking about?
Mhm.
If this violation notice involves construction, interpretation, or application of the terms of the town zoning ordinance, then you may have the right to appeal the decision to the ZBA. I don't see how that could be, because they haven't even given a conditional permit, I mean, they haven't started the process. But anyway, within 30 days pursuant to RSA 676:5 and 674:33, a decision of the administrative officer does not include a discretionary decision to commence formal or informal enforcement proceedings.
Yeah, it's the paragraph before the important notice to property owners
Please
about answering the citation.
Important notice to property business owners, please answer the citation within 30 days of the date set forth by contacting town's attorney, Jason Dennis, and to discuss corrective action. Failure to take corrective action may result in a misdemeanor if a natural person, a felony if any other person, and civil penalties of $275 as mentioned here for the first offense, and $550 for subsequent offenses, so it just doubles each time after the
Yeah,
first one.
and for each day that such a violation is found to continue.
After the conviction date or after the date on which the violator is served written notice that the violator is in violation, whichever is earlier, each day that a violation continues shall be a separate offense from RSA 676:17, I guess it is.
So as of June 1st, the amount that we could technically penalize them for is $8,525, and it just keeps escalating.
So is this the
So
letter that
that-
went out the first time?
That is the first letter that went out, correct.
And
there's a
what was the
second-
date on that letter?
May 1st, because
Yeah, just
this,
So they must have accepted it around May 2nd, May 3rd, something like that. The certified letter was signed off on a specific date, and that started the clock ticking for the 30 days
Yes.
to get a hold of town attorney, and they failed to do so.
Yeah.
Okay, that helps me understand why you said, well, we could find them now, but we haven't. I think that when those deadlines are not met, I really think it's important that we follow through. So
so we have a copy of the second violation letter here to sign, or is that? a
Well, do you
template?
mean follow through on the finding?
yes,
Then it goes to court, goes to Jason Dennis.
Are you talking about the full 8,000?
Well, it's more, it would be.
No,
I'm talking about the
No, the
275 per
275.
day. But I think, we didn't do that. But I think that if we should send another one out, and actually I'd prefer to see it have an absolute date. Well, it says 30 days
30
from.
days, yeah.
So, I don't know, I think it's time to, we're not accountable for them ignoring us, they are.
Right.
Yeah.
or not responding, I should say. We know he signed off on it, we have that record. And it's unfortunate, but it's a choice that others are making. We're not making that choice.
So if we were to, just as far as a letter, you mentioned part, but if we send them another letter, or the violation notice and the $275 fine, right? But also tell them they are accruing fines by the day, and we would like to avoid that situation. And what you have to do is get in contact with us, fill out the proper paperwork, and we can make you legal or whole, however you want to put it. Does that sound reasonable?
I mean, that's pretty much what the first violation notice stated, because it has the RSA in there, and that is
But we gave a real amount.
But I would
right?
like to, yeah,
You know,
at least.
you're looking at 8,000 as it
Do you
is
have a
now.
template for a second violation letter that we've used?
Yeah, it is right there, but not saying that they owe 275.
Right, so what you have here, this second, is that what we would sign and send?
Mhm.
Right.
But it sounds like you wanted to ask them to pay that 275.
Well,
So it would be different, we'd have to do something different and talk with legal, I think.
well,
Yeah,
the language here says that, failure to take corrective action may result in a misdemeanor. And so I understand that's different than shall.
Yeah.
May means might, shall means will. But I don't know if there's a way to insert shall on this next letter, or we have to stick to the language that's in there and we can't edit that?
Well, that is something that legal,
drafted.
yeah, they drafted
Okay.
these violation
And
notices
that's
for us
probably needs to
in the
be
very
word for
beginning.
word for the
Yeah.
ordinance, so I understand that.
Yeah.
But,
And I think that wording comes from the RSA.
Yeah,
then it shouldn't,
Yeah,
there's probably no editing.
Yeah.
right.
Well, do we have the will to, at this point, to fine or another letter? How do I asked that question. I know I played my hand, I said where I was going and kind of let them know a little bit, you're getting away with a lot right now and we just want to try and stop it right at this.
Yeah.
And you've missed already. And you owe, $275 for a violation with a lot more pending. But I don't know if that's too strong. I mean, because I agree with you about being friendly with people. We just want them to,
Just pay attention to what the
Right.
rules are here.
Right.
It's
Right.
also, it's amazing to me because fill it out. It's not even expensive. And the house, Kevin, as far as you know, is the house fine as far as
Oh,
like
yeah.
what they're renting it
Oh,
for
yeah,
and everything?
yeah, it's a big
So
ranch.
it would cost them
Yeah.
an application fee.
They were-
What I would like to do from this meeting then is sign the second notice and consult Jason with what we need to do to send a penalty amount due.
Okay,
So that's my recommendation.
I can go along with that.
Oh,
Okay,
so
so,
275, not the 8.
correct.
Okay.
One step at a time for what we can do. And because my reasoning for that too is it's gonna be really hard to impose that amount due. We would have to go to court and have legal costs. So I'd really like to not have that, as well as try to shed some light to the owners on, it's really more simple than what you're going through. So I'll make the recommendation and I'll make a motion to sign the second notice per this template and to consult with legal on sending a violation amount due.
second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
I'm gonna sign second time, I'm gonna give it back to you. Thank you. And Julie, will you consult with Jason then on that wording? Okay. I guess on the next question I would ask is, would you mind or would it be appropriate for me to reach out to them and leave a message as the board,
Yeah.
the select board member?
Sure.
I did it, I said
That's a good
select
idea.
board member.
You did. So you just-
So Julie, if you could send me their contact information, I will reach out and see if I can nudge them as well.
All right. Building and driveway permits, boy, there's a lot going on out there.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
It
It's
counts.
all in one shot there now.
Right,
Prince and patience.
that'll help.
there is,
Raising our valuation higher and higher.
I made a typo on one of them,
Dear.
hang on, number 49.
Mm-hmm.
It should be 93, the address 93 North Hampshire Ridge. Yeah, I don't know why I did that.
I didn't notice that. I do have
I just
something.
noticed it.
I do have something on the building inspection part.
Okay.
Not on the permits here, but we have a permit out for the carriage house at Eagle Mountain House. And it's, I don't know, it's almost 10 months now. And I went up there the other day and I noticed on the 2 egress doors out of the big banquet hall, there were deadbolts on the 2 exit doors. And there's supposed to be just put panic hardware on that. And they're old doors. And we've been told all along that the doors have been on order and who knows when they're gonna come in. Well, just before I went up and talked to the contractor, and the doors have never been ordered.
Oh,
So, and they're blaming it on the owners who they never, picked them out or whatever. So, they're coming to the end where they want to start using the place, but the kitchen still isn't done. And so Jay's been up there too, and Jay's looked at it, and there's some requirements that are needed to. If you lock a door from the inside with locking hardware, there's a bunch of requirements that have to be met, like labeling and all this other stuff. Trying to think where else I'm going with this. Oh yeah, so then Jay did not issue a permit of assembly, which I believe makes their liquor license at the carriage house void. So I don't know whose responsibility that is to call the liquor commission and mention that, because they do not have a permit of assembly for that building there.
and they're already having events there.
Oh, they've been having
They've been
events all
having
along,
for-
but
yeah.
they've never been, like I said, a deadbolt on the door, and it's just something you don't do.
Yeah.
There's, like I said, there's hardware, panic hardware, either just straight panic hardware or panic hardware that when you go
It's
to
like an
open it,
emergency door,
alarm
right?
goes off.
Yeah.
Like if you go like to Walmart or something, you'll see that alarm will sound,
Have
so,
you-
so that is the locking mechanism. So I don't know why they're dragging their feet.
Have you spoken to anybody, again, directly, with them saying, look, I mean, go up there and say, this is not the way this door is gonna be. It's supposed to be. I mean, and this is what you need to do. Has there been?
Oh, I did
Probably
that.
many
I just did that
conversations,
before because I know, with all the contractors, especially ordering windows, the worst I've heard was 6 months out for like windows. This is already 8 months. I think they would have had an idea, and they're dealing with architects.
Right.
So the architect should have picked out a style door that you could put panic hardware on and secure the inside or whatever. So,
have you spoken
I've been talking to Jay about this, so I don't know. I think the liquor commission, thing, that might get them really moving along. But I also just suggest, and I'll talk to Jay about this, is when they do have an event, or if they allowed to, that they have a fire watch person, which, let's say a trained person or someone from the fire department to make sure doors don't get locked. But these are doors with exit signs over, and that's their main. Those are primary doors to get out of the place.
That's a life safety issue.
Oh,
Yeah,
totally.
totally.
Yeah.
A door
Yeah,
that
some
serves
full level
as
lock.
an emergency
Yeah.
exit with a deadbolt on it. And
Asking for trouble.
so, I mean, I think that's exactly, what happened at the church is they had for a funeral service was that they had a fire watch person
Oh, yeah.
there.
Mhm.
So it's done, but I don't know, is it time to send a letter to the Eagle Mountain House Management and
Have you-
talk
have
about
you
the
spoken-
issue that we have with their permit for assembly, with their liquor license, with the life safety issue that seems to exist there, has us concerned, and invite them to a meeting?
Have
Yeah,
you
Is
spoken to
that too
management there,
slow?
or
I
have you
met with
spoken to
I met with
contractors?
management yesterday and went
Okay.
over this, plus a whole other bunch of stuff that
Okay,
hasn't been done, which a month before,
okay.
I met with someone from the whole entire organization, and went
Okay.
over all this stuff, and it's still the same.
Now, have you talked with the new general manager? I'm sorry. to interrupt.
Yeah, that's what.
That was who,
Yeah.
because I know that was just,
Yeah,
sorry, so
yeah.
he's just.
And he just kind of throws his hands up like.
Yeah.
So you're making a good point,
Yeah.
Julie, is is waiting for the next meeting really
No,
something we can afford to do?
Mm-mm.
What's our immediate recourse?
Make sure they don't have any,
Events.
no one uses that building at this point. They keep everything down in the tent.
And
If-
what's the process for that to happen?
I guess talking to the general manager probably, and I don't know what they have for events coming up. But I think everyone wants to be outside in the tent and have the wedding there, but if you get really bad weather or cold
Yeah.
or whatever, people like to be able to use that too.
Wind event? Absolutely.
Yeah,
If,
yeah.
if they had a fire watch person, would they be able to, or are there too many other things that are
Oh, no, I
happening?
think if they had a fire watch person, it'd be fine.
It would,
Yeah, it's
So-
all common sense, it's just that,
yeah.
it's not a good idea to put that
So-
bolt on.
So Bob, what you were saying is having a meeting with them for sure, but sooner rather than later versus before the next meeting, because I guarantee you, except or Memorial Day, they probably have events every weekend, but what if we delivered a letter that said, so almost like a cease and desist, that says you either need to have a fire watch person employed during events or sacrifice your licensing and attend, or the license to, what is it, you could,
Well, he doesn't have a permit of
A
assembly.
permit to
They
assemble.
did not issue that, so that,
Yeah.
I think that makes the liquor license part.
and just having someone maybe with Chief Burley's attendance too?
Yeah, and I think
Same.
even if we have to schedule a separate meeting, what do we need to get, 48 hours notice for a
Yeah.
public meeting? and
24.
24, to set that up. I mean, I'm willing to come in because
Mhm.
this is an urgent issue where, and now we know about it.
I'm willing to go.
But if he hasn't been issued a permit of assembly and he's still having events
Yeah.
there.
I think he went up maybe a week ago or so, and Jay told me about it, so I don't know what's scheduled or what he told him,
Right.
but they should not be having anything going on up there.
Right. I think
I
the
guess
strongest
find
language
what's
possible to
going on.
ensure that that's not happening.
Who is the actual decision maker there? I mean, the general manager, the new general manager doesn't seem, he's not really sure. It comes from above him, people pay
Yeah,
the
it's,
bills, right?
his name's Lynn, he's from Florida, he's the owner's either son-in-law or.
Is he on premises?
No,
Florida.
He just shows up.
And what's
I met him like 4 years ago.
What's the general manager's name?
What is his name? Who's the paper? I can look it up.
I know.
What's the
I can't
company's
think of
name?
it now.
This isn't Hayloft.
No,
No.
it's too easy to name. Hang on. I can't remember that. Search.
My house is
Joel, his name's Joel.
Joel.
Yeah.
I'd be willing, Kevin, to go up with you one more once.
Maybe with
What
Jay
we
too.
do here, yeah, and just a little more show of force, I suppose, and
Yeah.
just, again, friendly approach, but this has got to be done because how serious it is.
Mhm.
Because that's the last thing we're going to do, because then we're in trouble. We know it, and we're not enforcing it. It's not good for us either.
Yeah.
So, but right at this point, do I have any suggestions? Did you have a suggestion you wanted to, do we want to send another letter? I mean, is that going to do us any good? Or just, Kevin, schedule another meeting?
Yeah, I mean, we can
I'll be-
go
tell me
to
when.
Thursday.
Thursday?
Tomorrow. Yeah, I got training tomorrow on.
Thursday would be fine with me.
Thursday would be great. We
Can
can go up there.
Can you call
Oh,
them, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking middle of the morning,
Yep.
10 o'clock or something like that?
Yeah, we can
And
do
then
that.
That'd be
have a
fine.
list of what's
Yeah.
required of them at
Right.
that time
Yeah.
for Jay's reason, for your reason, and
He's
to
a
get
walking, talking
approval.
list there.
And that way, they can forfeit their liquor license.
Yeah, of
otherwise
course. Does
they're-
that sound
they're
right?
The
late.
consequences, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, so that's what we'll do.
And
Where this is ongoing.
you let
we'll
the town
get to that.
office know what happens Thursday
Yeah.
when the meeting's over.
Yeah, definitely.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
So,
All for it.
I'll come down to you, all right? I'll come down to, and then we'll go up in there,
Mhm.
the official Jackson building inspector's auto.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
All
hope it
right,
works out, I mean, it's a shame.
all right. All right, well, now, we're getting to the end here. Upcoming meetings, Tuesday, June 27th at 3:30, and then yet another one on Tuesday, July 11th at 3:30.
You done, Kevin?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Are there any public comments? Yeah. I don't see anybody making any comments. Okay, so I guess I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good.